Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday and happy Canada Day. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And apparently, I have a frog in my throat that I just discovered. And today, I am all about the absolutely gorgeous Kintsugi Inspirations suite from the Stampin' Up! 2025-2026 annual catalog. Now, this suite is one that we weren't allowed to pre-order as demonstrators, so I ordered it right away as soon as the catalog went live, and I have had so much fun playing with it. So I'm going to share all the products in the suite with you today. I am going to show you 3 projects. 2 of them are fun folds. How can you tell Lena's retired? She's got lots of time on her hands and lots of time, lots of creativity to spare. So you're going to get 2 fun folds today. I hope you're okay with that. And I'm going to show you a bunch of other simpler ideas that you can use with this suite. Okay. But if you're watching from Canada, let me know how you're celebrating Canada Day. If you are elsewhere in the world, let me know you're watching and tell me what your favorite thing about Canada is. Okay. All right. While you're doing that, I am going to share these beautiful products with you. So let me just flip to my desk. There we go. All right, so we have a bundle, we have an embossing folder, we have beautiful paper and some embellishment. So let's start with the bundle. So we have the Inspiring Imperfections bundle. So we have some vases and sort of a floral. These are meant to be cracks, okay, that you can add to your pottery. And then we have some lovely sentiments as well. And of course, then coordinating dies. There is a fun little label die that fits most of these sentiments. And then we also have open dies to cut out our stamped images. Then we also have 2 dies that cut cracks in your pottery. So you're going to see that on my second project today. And then some additional sort of floral elements. So it's a great little bundle, super versatile, lots of fun things that you can do with this one. And then also we have the joined together embossing folder. So I'll open this up. You will see it's really hard to see the pattern when it's just on the folder, but I will show you an embossed panel on the second card so you can actually see what it looks like embossed. Okay, this one's called Joined Together. And I'll show you the embellishments in a sec. But my favorite thing about this suite, of course, it's always the DSP. So we have beautiful specialty DSP. It's all got gold foiling on one side. So we've got this sort of misty moonlight and gold. We've got basic beige and gold. We've got white and gold, which you can use your blending brushes and change to any color. We've got this sort of multi-pattern and gold. We've got blue and white floral with gold. And then we've got this fabulous sheet that coordinates with the dies. So you can use your vase die, you can use the bowl, and you can use your flower to cut out all of the images on this paper. So the first thing I did when I got this paper was actually cut out a whole sheet all of these vases and flowers because I knew I was going to be using them a ton. And then, of course, on the back side, we have some more subdued patterns. We've got some cloud cover, a sort of scallop pattern. We've got some petal pink and a bit of a tone-on-tone floral. We've got a cloud cover as well. We're going to use this one on our first card. I love this sort of wavy swirlies. I haven't actually used, I'm saving this to use with a different bundle. You'll see in a couple of weeks. I haven't touched that pattern yet. We have this sort of mosaic pattern and then another sort of lighter sort of cherry blossom floral in petal pink. So that is the beautiful paper. And then, of course, we have these adorable little embellishments. Let me hold these up. Let's see if I'll wait for my camera to focus. There we go. It's kind of focusing. Maybe not. I just got a new iPhone 16. That was my birthday present from my husband. And this is the first live I've done with it. So it doesn't focus quite as nicely as I would like it to. But it focuses down here, but not up here. All right, interesting. But they have these little, what are these called? Flower accents. To me, they just look like they are little flowers sort of pressed into the gold. But they just have this nice texture to them. Okay, so those are the embellishments. I'm going to keep those out because I'm going to need those. All right, so let's see who's joining before we get to stamping here. I don't want to ignore you all. All right, we've got Terry. Hi, Terry and Jeannie K. Welcome. Charlie and Sonia. Yes, thank you, Terry. I got my official email. I woke up to it this morning saying my pension has started. That was like the best news I've had in a really long time. Yes, thank you, Charlie. Thank you for the Canada Day wishes. Hi, Mary. Hi, Alexina. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Suzanne. You like every Canadian you've ever met. Well, that's good to hear. Hi, Debbie. Welcome. Favorite things about Canada? The people. We rock. Yes. Well, I happen to have some very good friends in the US who I would say are every bit as nice as those who are in Canada. So I think there's good people all over the place if you can find them. All right, so let's get to our projects. The first one we're going to do today is this one. I wanted to do a fairly simple one. The only stamping on this card is the sentiment. So it's really all about the dies and the DSP. So let me show you how quick and easy it is to put this one together. So I'm starting with a piece of that pretty cloud cover DSP on the back. It's got that sort of multi pattern, but I like this really subtle cloud cover pattern. So this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. It's going to cover my entire card front. And then I have a strip of this sort of Petal Pink tone on tone DSP that is 4 by 1 1/2. So I intentionally cut it a little bit smaller so that it doesn't quite go to the edges. I like that look, just for something a little different. So that is going to get glued, not quite in the middle, a little bit below center, right across our DSP panel. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue here. And we'll pop this on right about there-ish, hopefully straight. And then I have a gold foil rectangle. This is cut using the textured notes. Is that what it's called? Yes, textured notes dies. I always have to double check. So I'm going to glue this on right about here. So centered again on my panel. Just about like that. There we go. And then I have some die cut elements from the DSP. So I have one of the vases and 2 of the flowers. Now, I wanted to have my flowers look like they're actually in the vase rather than behind it. Like I didn't want to put them in behind. So how many of you knew that there was an X-Acto knife attachment for your take your pick? Did you know that? So there is an add-on kit that is, I think it's called the Crafter's Accessories or something. And one of the pieces that come in that is an X-Acto knife. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I am just going to follow this front rim, the gold on my vase here. And I'm just going to cut a little bit of a slit. Nothing huge. You can see it. Well, maybe you can't see it. Can you see it on the back there? There, you can see it. Okay, and then I'm going to take and trim the stems. I don't need all these stems, all this length on my flowers. And I'm going to insert them into the little slit that I cut. And then it looks like my flowers are actually in the vase. So same thing with this guy. I'm going to tuck this one in behind, just like that. Okay. So then it looks like our flowers are in the vase, not behind it. All right, so then I'm going to take a little bit of seal and just kind of tack those in place so they don't move around on me. And then I'm going to take this die cut element. So this is one of those sort of floral elements that are part of the die set. And this is the Pastel Ombre Glimmer Paper, which I think is still on the last chance list, if I'm not mistaken. It may have sold out. I don't know. But I had a bunch of this kicking around and I thought I'm going to use it because it coordinates so well. So I just took and cut it in half. And I'm going to add a little bit of seal here so that these guys don't float around. Stay put, you guys. All right, so a little bit of seal behind my flowers. And then we're just going to add these little elements in behind them, just like that. So we've got our little arrangement. And then that is going to go on there. But first, we are going to stamp our label. So I am using the sentiment that says, thanks for helping me through this difficult time, but I only want to use the thanks. I'm not having a difficult time. I'm actually having a great time right now. I am really, really happy to be finished with work life and get to do what I want when I want. So I'm going to take some Lost Lagoon ink, and I'm going to ink just the thanks. But before I do that, I'm taking a spoon and I want to just press some of that ink from the edge down, because this is a really, really juicy pad. And when I tried to ink it earlier, I ended up with a little bit of a mess. So this way I get rid of some of that excess ink. I'm going to ink up my thanks, and then I'm going to stamp it a little bit towards the left. And I realized that I forgot to do not disturb on my phone. We may get notifications coming through. All right, so then this is going to get glued behind my vase. So again, I'm going to put a little bit of seal and then just kind of arrange this where I want it. Right about there. Looks good-ish. I'm not worrying about straight just yet. And then I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back of my vase. Okay, so question for you. I, in Canada, say vase. How many of you say vase? This is one of those words that I think is sort of regional. Vase or vase? You tell me which it is. I have always said vase. I don't know that that's a Canadian thing or just a always heard my mom say vase thing. But that's how I learned to pronounce it. So I'm interested to know whether you say vase or vase. All right, so there's my card front. Wasn't that easy? Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add this to a cloud cover card base. So this is a 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. So we'll go ahead and fold that in half along our score line. Ooh, I don't think my measurement was quite right. We'll just fix our uneven measurement because those did not line up very well. It's amazing what you can do with a bone folder and a little bit of pressure. All right, so because this is sized to fit my entire card front, I'm going to open this back up so that when I glue this, I can get this nicely aligned. I'm going to use liquid glue again, so I have that time to wiggle it into place. So I like to bump right up against the fold and then just kind of lay it down. I find that the easiest way to get it to line up. So there we go. Then I love your comments. Okay, so Lauren says vase. Vase, Susan. Vase with a long A with an A, unless it's a recessive vase. You guys are cracking me up. All right. Let me add a couple of these little golds or flower. What are these called? I have already forgotten. Flower accents. I'm going to put one of the large ones on each side here to kind of look like, I don't know, rivets attaching my panel. There we go. Done and done. Now on the inside, I just had this extra little scrap bit from cutting my card front. So I thought, here is how we use up our bits, right? We're going to just add this little scrap to the bottom of our inside layer. So this white layer is just 4 by 5 1/4. I don't think I put this layer on the measurements. This is just a 1/2 inch by 4 strip that was left from cutting the 2 panels for my sample and my demonstration here. So rather than waste perfectly lovely DSP, we use those leftover little scraps to decorate the inside of our cards. And then it looks pretty on the inside too. And there we go. Done and done. You like that one? All right. Vase with the long A, it's under 100 years old. Okay, interesting. I did not know that. Thank you for educating me. All right, let's get that out of the way. And we're going to pull in number 2. So I did mention I'm doing 2 fun folds today. The ideas were flowing and I couldn't decide which one to choose. So I decided to choose both. So this is a diamond gatefold. So it looks pretty standard when you look at it closed, but then when we open it, it opens out and then it stands like this. So I'll show you. There you go. You can see how it stands. Now you're probably thinking, where do you write? Well, you write on the back. Okay. You could, if you wanted to, use white panels here to write on as well. But I like having that nice clean look on the front so that, you know, somebody could display this and not have your message on display for everybody as well. All right, so let me show you how to do this. It is really, really, really easy, much simpler than it looks. Okay, so I'm going to start with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of basic beige cardstock, and I have scored it at 4.25. So I'm going to fold in the middle, just like I would a regular card base. Where did my, there it is. How did I lose my bone folder already? Okay, then I've added additional score lines. I'm not sure if you can see them, but there's one at, excuse me, I'm just gonna take a quick sip of water because this frog does not want to go away. It's rather irritating. I've scored it 2 1/8 in from each edge. So there's my center, 4.25. So 2 1/8 in from here, and then rotate and 2 1/8 in from here. Or if you want to measure straight across, 2 1/8, 4.25, and 6 3/8. Okay. All right. So I have this center fold. It's a mountain. Okay. And then these outer folds, I'm going to make valleys. So I'm going to take this one. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to show you a trick to make sure that these fold in and allow space for your pop out. So we're not going to fold those yet. I'm going to show you a little tip. All right. So we're going to create our little pop out mechanism. So for that, you need I think these are 2 1/4. Yes, no, 2.5, 2.5 inch squares of basic beige. Okay. And I haven't scored them or anything. I'm just going to take and fold them. So just pinch, sort of line up my corners. I'm going to fold them on the diagonal. I'm not worried about what this looks like. It doesn't have to be perfect because nobody's ever going to see it. If you are really worried about it being perfect, you certainly could score on the diagonal and then fold, but it's not necessary. So there's 1 and 2. Okay, so the easiest way to get that fold is to just line those corners up and then pinch across. Okay, so they are going to get glued like this. So what I'm going to do is bring back my base here, and I am going to adhere these 2 folded squares in a diamond orientation. Now, when I glue these, I'm going to glue them up to the folds, but not over. Okay, so that's why I folded this. I wanted to have a nicely burnished fold so I can see where that ridge is to glue these on. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little glue. And then we're going to pop this on up to the fold, but not over it. Okay, so we want to make sure that that's still going to fold closed. Okay, just see that? Okay, so there's one side. And then I'm going to match up the second one. Same idea, a little bit of glue. So we want to form a diamond. So again, in up tight to the fold, but not over it. Okay. Now that I've got these on, now I can take and fold along these other score lines, and I'm going to tuck them in to make sure that they meet that folded diamond on each side. Okay, so I'm going to just fold it inwards and burnish. Okay, and then I'm going to fold this down and burnish. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This is my second or my third score line, I guess. Again, line that up and burnish, and then fold this down and burnish again. Okay, that gives you your card base and ensures that it is going to close properly. Okay, all right, that's really all there is to it. Now it's just decorating. It's that easy. All right, so to decorate, we're going to cover up this little pop-out mechanism with a piece of this gorgeous, gorgeously embossed ESP. So I mentioned I would show you what the joined together, is that what it's called? Yes, joined together embossing folder looks like. And there it is in all its beauty. Okay, it's lovely, both embossed and debossed. The debossed side has the veins popped up, but the pattern is debossed. And then the embossed side has the pattern popped up and the veins debossed. It's kind of neat. All right, so this is a 4 by 5 3/8 inch piece of basic beige. And I'm just going to come in and cut these in half. Okay, so I'm going to cut at 2 inches. So you always want to emboss first and then cut. That way you can get your pattern to line up. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue these on either side of my mechanism here, and that's going to hide that pop out mechanism. Okay, so I'm going to leave 1/2 on just to make sure I get this glued the right way. Ask me why? Well, because when I put together the sample, I did not take care and ended up having to pull it apart. So we're not going to make that same mistake. And we're going to make sure we get this on the way we want it. So these are 2 by 5 3/8 inches, these panels. Okay, and then same thing on the other side. Pop this one in on here. There we go. And then again, we'll burnish that. And again, tuck these panels in. Make sure everything's going to close. Give everything a really good burnish so that it's all going to lay nice and flat when it's closed. Okay. All right. Next up on the inside, we have two by 5 3/8 panels that are going to go on either outer panel. So again, just a little bit of glue. And we'll pop these on. There's one. And 2. And we do have a really narrow border, but I really wanted to showcase this pretty DSP. Okay, so that is the inside finished. So we're going to go ahead and close that. And again, give it a burnish. And now to decorate the front panels, we are going to take, again, these are 2 by 5 3/8. These ones are going to go in on either side this way. Okay, so again, these were cut from a, hang on, which way did these go? There we go. They were cut from a 4 by 5 3/8 inch piece, and then I cut them each into 2 so that I could line up the pattern. Okay. All right, so a little bit of glue. And we'll pop this one on. Make sure that's straight. It's hard to see when you're gluing tone on tone. And then another one. I like to work with these closed so that I can line up my edges, make sure everything's nice and straight and even. There we go. All right, now let's work on our focal image. So I have, let me get rid of all my bits here. So I have a, what's this, 2 3/4? Yes, 2 3/4 square piece of Petal Pink cardstock, and then a 2 5/8 square piece of the DSP. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and layer those. Pop that on. The way I say it, it does sound nice and expensive. Okay, so it's a vase if it's from, you know, the thrift shop, but a vase if it's crystal. Let's put it that way. All right, that is going to get glued on there, but not yet. We're going to assemble our broken and reassembled vases or vases. I think they're precious, so they're vases. These are expensive, ancient Asian vases. So we're gonna use the awe. All right, so I cut just a blank of gold foil specialty paper, and then I stamped and die cut both the bowl and the vase, and then I used these sort of crack dies, for lack of a better word, to cut and kind of create a little puzzle that we're going to reassemble against the gold, and that's going to give us that kintsugi effect. So when assembling these, a very little bit of glue. So I'm going to layer this right edge to edge, okay, because I've already cut, because I die cut, there's actually a crack already built into it, which makes it really easy to get this cool effect. Where is the bottom of my, there it is, that one goes there. This is a little bit of a puzzle. Once you do it once, it's not so bad, but the first time I was like, okay, how the heck does this go together? It helps to have the gold piece behind it to figure it out. This little guy was the other part of the bottom, or the base. Isn't it cool the way that leaves that little gap and we get that sort of cracked look? And then this is the side. There we go. And then finally, this itty bitty piece goes in here. So I'm going to put the teeniest little dab of glue on here. Come on. This always happens. When you need a teeny dab, it doesn't come out, and then you end up with a big glob. There we go. And then that guy's going to go on there. Just like that. So there's my broken bowl. And then I have my vase. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit of glue to this one. So this is going to come up along the side. And then this is the other piece at the top. Just like that. And then this is part of the bottom. And the nice thing about using liquid glue on the gold foil is it takes a little bit to set up, so you do have that extra time to get them placed just so. And then this is the side. And then finally this little guy fills in the last bit. Just like that. So there you go. So you could get a similar look by just die cutting the crack from gold foil and laying it over top, but I like the look of this because it actually looks like it's cracked and repaired. Okay. All right. So there are our two vases. And then we're going to add this little gold foil floral element. So to glue this on, I'm just going to use a little bit of seal. If my seal decides to cooperate, I'm just going to tack that into place right about there. And then this guy is going to get glued flat. So I just want to take care when I'm gluing this on that it's going to be straight. So I'm going to start with my diamond in a perpendicular vertical orientation there. And then we'll add our bowl. That one's going to get popped up as soon as I figure out what I do with my dimensionals. Where'd you go, dimensionals? Okay. I don't know what I did with them. All right, we're going to use middies because I can't find my big ones. They're somewhere. They were here a minute. Oh, they're on the floor. That's where they are. There we go. Mystery solved. So we're going to pop this guy on. And then the sentiment, I have heat embossed in gold and die cut using that little label die that comes with the die set. So again, a couple of dimensionals to adhere this piece. And again, I want to make sure that my piece is straight so that I can get my sentiment straight. There we go. And then that is going to get glued to that pop-out mechanism on our card. So I'm going to just flatten these down. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to center this. So I'm going to pay attention to my points. I want to line them up with the opening, that gap between the two side panels there. So I'm just going to pay attention to that, make sure I've got it straight, nicely aligned. And there you go. Isn't that easy? It's way easier than it looks, this card. This is a, whoops, got a little overzealous. I didn't give my glue time to set. Let's just let that glue set before it falls apart. While we're doing that, we're going to add our little white panels on the back. So on the back is where we can write our greeting. If you wanted to, you could stamp another sentiment. So these are just 2, again, by 5 3/8. So all the same measurements for all of the panels. Easy to remember. And I've got this little pink, or sorry, this little flower. I'm going to stamp in Petal Pink, this little sort of flower element here. And we're just going to stamp it in the corners. just to add a little something to the back of the card. So I'm just going to stamp it in the corners, keeping in mind that this is going to adhere against that fold in the middle, right? So there we go. And then we flip this guy over and pop these on. And then we are done. I still have one more fun fold. You guys bored yet? The last one is my favorite. This one's a super easy wow. The next one's not hard either, but it's an even bigger wow if you ask me. So sit tight. All right, so there we go. There are our back panels. And our last touch, I'm just going to close this up again, is to add, again, a few of our little embellishments here. So let's put, whoopsie. I'm going to put these in a slightly different spot just because the pattern on the DSP is a little bit different here. Let's put one here. And then we'll maybe put one down here. A little bit different. And there you go. Done and done. Easy peasy fun fold. Okay. Uh-oh. It says waiting for signal. Uh-oh, Mary, don't tell me that. It looks like I'm still good. Can anybody else see me? Are we good? All right. Everything I'm seeing says I'm live, so I'm hoping I'm still good. Okay. All right, Linda, you lost it. I wonder if it's a Facebook thing. Okay, yeah, it seems no problem on YouTube, but Facebook seems to be acting up. All right, so YouTube is the way to go, folks. All right, so our last card is another fun fold. This one is a little bit of a wow. So it has a belly band that slides off, and then we open it up, and we stand up our little vases, and then we open our flaps. Okay, so I did this one at Christmas time with the lantern. I can't remember what it was called, but the one that was the lantern. And I just thought these vases would look lovely as a pop-up element on an easel card. So let me show you how to do this. It is, again, way easier than it looks. All right, let's leave these standing up so you can see how it's all going to come together. Okay, so we're going to start with a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock. I've scored it at 4 1/4. Okay, so basic standard card base. Then I'm going to bring in my trimmer. I'm going to get rid of my inky spoon so I don't get ink on anything I don't want. And then I'm going to put this, I'm going to put it against my bottom. I'm going to get my scoring blade out of the way for a minute. Come here, you. When you want it to move, it doesn't want to come out. When you don't, it falls out all by itself. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take and put this against my bottom ruler here. And I'm going to align this left edge at 2 3/4. So that's the midpoint. And I'm going to score upwards from the bottom to where it has the 8 1/4 mark. And that's going to take me up to that score line. Okay, so I'm just going to follow my little marker on my cutting blade. And that takes me right up. Oh, it could go up a little bit further. Let's see if we can get that up just a smidge further. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to try that. I'm just going to take my snips just to go that last little bit. There we go. All right. So all I did is cut from the bottom edge up to the score line. So far, so good. Yeah, having an issue with Facebook. I just got a message from StreamYard. And Facebook is not happy. So if you're watching on Facebook, I apologize. It's a Facebook thing. It's not me. But we will hopefully have the YouTube replay for everybody to catch later. All right, so I'm now going to take that piece that I cut and I'm going to close my trimmer and I'm going to line up the bottom left corner of the panel that I just cut and the top where my cut is. Okay, so I'm going to score from the top of the cut down to that bottom left corner. Now I like to use my bone folder for this just because I feel like I have a little bit more control than with my scoring blade. Okay, can you see that? Maybe. There we go. You can see that score line. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to close my cutting guide and just make sure that that is lined up. So bottom corner and the top of the cut here. Oh, come on. It's hard to see when you're not looking straight down. It's not quite lined up. There we go. And again, come in with my bone folder and score on the diagonal. Okay, can you see how that works? Okay, that's all there is to it. It looks like it's some fancy schmancy scoring. It's really not. That's it. Okay, so now I'm going to take and fold each of these panels in half. So like I'm closing my card. And again, I want to make sure that these line up. And this is a function of not quite getting that cut right to the top. Let's see if we can. There we go. So there's one. And two. Okay, and then we're going to take those diagonal score lines and we're going to fold inwards. Oh, that one did not line up very well. Let's see if we can adjust that a bit. Oh, you know what? It's not going to matter. It will all be good. Okay, so that's going to give us our wings that pop up. Okay. Pretty easy, right? All right, now our next piece that we're going to do is these front triangles to decorate the front of the card. So this piece is just a 4 by 5 1/4 inch square, or not square, panel. And I'm going to take and I'm going to cut this in half lengthwise. So I'm going to, what's half of 5 1/4? 2 5/8, I believe. So I'm going to take and cut that in half, just like that. Then I'm going to take and cut on the diagonal. So I'm going to take this one. I'm going to cut from the top right to the bottom left. And I like to use my little guillotine for this because I'm going to flip this one piece of this over and I don't want to get that raised edge we get from the trimmer. So this one is actually going to get used on this side like this. Do you see that? And then we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to cut from the top left to the bottom right. So again, lining up those corners and chopping. So this one is going to go here, and this one's going to flip over and go here. Okay, so one panel of cardstock, you get the two patterns. Isn't that slick? All right, so let's go ahead and glue them. Now I find it easiest to start with the center ones. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these guys on. So there's one. And two. And again, liquid glue is your friend because you can get things lined up, get nice even borders, everything nice and pretty. And then our upper panels here. My phone keeps buzzing and it's because I forgot to put on Do Not Disturb. So I'm getting notifications. My husband's working in the garage and it's sensing the motion. So I keep getting notified that there's somebody in the garage. There we go. All right. So there is our wings, for lack of a better word. Okay. All right. Now on the inside, we are going to add another 4 by 5 1/4 inch panel. So that's going to decorate the inner sort of bottom panel. So again, a little bit of glue here. Pop that on. Just like that. All right, I keep getting this. I'm going to remove it from Facebook. Sorry, guys. I just have to get rid of the Facebook stream because it's really not cooperating. There we go. All right. We should be in business on YouTube. I apologize to anyone who is watching on Facebook. Hopefully they can find me over here on YouTube. All right. So we've added our bottom panel. Now we need something to catch our wings, right? So for these to stand up, just like any easel, we need something that is raised to catch. So what I did, let me just grab them here. is I took some gold foil specialty paper and I added some of our foam adhesive sheets. And then I cut out the smaller of the two floral elements. So this little guy here. And that gives me this little raised gold element that I can then use as the catch for my easel. Now, the only tricky thing about the adhesive sheets is that you have to kind of weed out those bits because they don't really pop out if you use your die brush. So you kind of have to weed them out. So I'm just using my pokey end of your take your pick, and they're super sticky. So I can just kind of dig them out and stick them on my finger, and then I can get rid of them later. One more. Come here, you. This one doesn't want to come out. Okay, we're not going to worry about it. So there are those bits we'll get rid of. So I'm going to take the backing off, and I'm going to fold up one of my wings. Now I want my wings to line up. The outer edge is going to line up with the outer edge of my card. Can you see that? So I'm going to kind of stand it up where I want it, and then I'm going to add my little floral bit. Okay, and that's going to hold that wing. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I have another one of these little foam pieces. And again, we'll get rid of our little negative bits here. Come here. This is the same one that didn't want to come out on the last one. All right, stay there. Be stubborn. There we go. Okay, we'll get rid of those little bitties. And again, get rid of our backing. And then on this side, same deal. We're going to line this up so that it aligns with the edge of our card base. And then that is going to go on so that it catches just like that. Okay, so there are our little catches for our wings. Now we're going to work on this little easel panel for our vases or vases, whichever you prefer. All right, so on the inside, I'm using a tall pink vase or vase and a smaller blue bowl. And then I have one of our little die cut flowers here. So these are all just going to get assembled together with some seal. So I'm going to just go ahead and adhere my flower and then add a little bit more seal and adhere it to my vase or vase. There we go. Okay. Now the pop-up little easel strip is really, really simple. It's just 3/4 of an inch by 3. You could do this in Misty Moonlight, whatever scrap you've got, really, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see much of it. So I've scored it at 3/4 and then at 1.5. So I'm going to make a mountain and a valley. Okay. So it's going to stand up. Nope, I did the wrong way. A valley and a valley. It's going to stand up like that. Okay, you want to make it a little triangle. So first thing I'm going to do is glue the smaller little 3/4 inch square part to the bottom of my vases. So I'm just going to add a little bit of seal here. And this is going to get glued, hopefully straight onto my vases like that. Okay, so that's going to pop up like that on the inside of our card. Okay, now I'm going to fold this flat, this pop-up piece, and I'm going to apply a little bit. I'm going to use liquid glue for this just because I want a little bit of time to adjust as I need to. And I'm going to take and I'm going to line this up so that the center of my tall vase is centered between my wings here. Okay, so I'm going to have my wings standing up, and I want to have time to wiggle that into place. Okay, that's just to ensure that it's going to, oh, that's not very straight, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Come on. Wiggle this way a little. There we go. Okay, so there is our pop-up piece. So that is going to pop up, hopefully, just like that. Okay. All right, now we're going to add our label, which is going to catch our vases. So I have these labels. Now, these are a little sneak peek of something that's coming in the holiday mini. These fabulous labels are part of a new suite that is coming. I'm not going to tell you any more than that because you're not going to be able to get it until, well, September. So I don't want to get you too excited about it, but these are a great pair of nesting labels. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment for the inside. It says, I know you get through this and be stronger for it. I actually have a colleague from school who is battling some significant health challenges. So this, oopsie, let's try that again. We're going to flip, actually, we're going to use another one. And see if we can stamp the entire image this time. There we go. And then I'm going to bring back that little bitty floral image, and we're going to add it on either end of our label here just to decorate. There we go. And then this is going to get popped up. So a couple of dimensionals, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll get rid of our backings. And then this is going to get popped up so that it is kind of centered between our little floral elements, and it's going to catch our vases. So it's going to stand up. Come on. There. Oh, come on. There we go. And then we add our wings. I don't think I burnished these folds enough, but there you go. That's how that works. Okay. All right. So we're going to lay this flat. And then our last touch is to work on our belly band. So the belly band is simply a 1 by 11 inch piece of Misty Moonlight cardstock. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's not going to go all the way around. No, it is not, but that's okay. I'm going to show you a little trick. So one of the things that bothers me about belly bands is that they're not, you have to use 12 by 12 inch cardstock if you want to go all the way around a card base that is 5.5 inches, right? And I don't always have 12 by 12 cardstock in the colors that I am using on my cards. So this is how you can use your 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock and still create a belly band to go on a landscape card. So I'm just going to fold this around. I'm going to hug my card. Okay. It's going to come up to, there's a bit of a gap, as you can see. We're going to slide this out, and I'm just going to burnish these folds a little bit like that. And then I have another little strip, again, 1 inch wide, and we're just going to fill in that gap, because what's going to happen is this gold label is going to cover it, and no one's going to see our little patch job. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of seal on each end here. I'm going to trim this because I don't need all this length. And then we're just going to patch that little bit there. And no one will ever know that we had a little patch job. Okay, our label is going to cover it. See how easy that was? All right, now to decorate, we are going to go ahead and add a panel. This is 7/8 by 5 1/4. And again, I'm going to just trim a length. I don't need the whole length because again, I'm going to be hiding most of it with my label. So again, a little bit of glue. We'll pop this on one end. And then again, we don't need it to go all the way across. So you could even use shorter little scrap bits for this. You don't have to use the full length. Okay, and then our gold label is going to go on just like that. So let's go ahead and add some seal and pop this on. Hopefully centered and hopefully straight. That looks pretty good. Okay, and then to decorate, we're going to see if we can hide our little oopsie here. Where did my other... No, I think I forgot to cut. I think I forgot to cut additional vases. We can't finish it anyway because I forgot to cut the vases. You get the idea. So we're going to add our white label. We're going to stamp our sentiment, and then we're going to add the additional vases to decorate the belly band. Okay, so you end up with something that looks like this and slides on your card. Let me close this one and slide it on so you can see the finished one. That was not very smart of me, forgetting to cut the extra details for the front. So there we go. There's your finished card. You like that one? All right. Okay, let me bring back all our projects and then I will show you a few more ideas with this fabulous suite. So there are our 3 for today. And then a few more ideas. So here is one. I did a little bit of stamping to create my vases. Just a really simple one, really showcases the beautiful DSP. This is the very first one I made with this suite. I just love Misty Moonlight and Petal Pink together. They're just such a beautiful color combo. Here's another one. I use that same technique that I did on the second card to create my cracks in my vase. And then here's another one in Petal Pink and Basic Beige. I love that combo too. And then one more. This one, I embossed my panel in Lost Lagoon, and then I used the deboss side. So the veining was raised. And then I just took my Versamark with a dauber and daubed on some Versamark on the raised vein and then heat embossed in gold. So I got that sort of veined look. So there you go. Lots of ideas using the Kintsugi Kintsugi Inspirations suite from the Stampin' Up! 2025-2026 annual catalog. All right, now let me just quick scroll back and see who is here and if there are any questions. Has retirement sunk in yet? It hasn't really. Honestly, Mia, it feels like summer vacation. We'll see what happens when September rolls around. September 2nd, I'm sure it will sink in when I don't have to report for duty. All right. Who else is here? Okay, thank you all for letting me know that I'm still live on YouTube. I know Facebook is not behaving. All right, I hope you like these projects. It was a little long today because I did 2 fun folds, but I hope that gave you some ideas and inspiration for this beautiful suite of products. Let me get back to me so I can say a proper goodbye. All right. Thank you for joining me on this Canada Day. I hope you are celebrating somewhere. If you are Canadian, maybe going to fireworks tonight and celebrating all that is great about our country. For those who are not in Canada, if you're in the US, I wish you an early, happy Independence Day on Friday. And I will see all of you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.